Brian here, SethPaceTriathlon.com, and we're going to do a couple of talk IRONMAN Des Moines. Here we are a couple days out. I'm getting ready to drive down myself tomorrow as I am racing the event. I'll be there for the Become One effort, so if you're a first-timer, come out and visit the Become One tent. We'll have it out on Saturday. They have the tent out at Bike Check-In. I believe they'll have a tent there in Ironman Village, Cowles Commons there in Des Moines. So stop by. We're going to have different coaches, myself and a couple other coaches out there to help you with any last-minute questions. But I want to do my own video. I've been on site for like Ironman Chattanooga, Ironman Florida, Ironman Tulsa, several other events as a kind of the Become One kind of first-timer Ironman University certified coach. So I'm doing this little video just to help you out. I don't know if they'll do a first-timer briefing. They have in the past, and sometimes we did a virtual for like 2021 races. But I'm going to put it out there so you can see this now, and then if you catch it later, even if Des Moines not, you're not racing Ironman Des Moines, but you're racing a first full Ironman, the tips are kind of universal as far as other events go. But I'll kind of be going over Des Moines specifically, so that'll help you out a little bit because the swim's a little bit different, bike, run. No two courses are the same, so there's a little bit of small nuances. So we're going to jump right into it. So at this point in time, a couple days out, if you haven't done your training, now's not the time to make up for anything you've missed. So don't be going out for 50, 60-mile bike rides, 10-mile runs, or anything like that. You want to go in there as rested as possible. It's better to be undertrained than overtrained, so you don't want to wear yourself out before you're going in there. So definitely, at this point, rest up. Don't let anxiety get the best of you. I think the key nights to be getting sleep is a night, but Saturday night before the race. You won't sleep well Saturday night. Everybody's nerves will be on edge. You'll be anxious. Even after 9 Ironman races, I'm anxious the night before. So you just want everything to go smooth. You're going over everything in your head. So that's going to be the key, is making sure you get that rest. The next point is make a list. I'm doing my list. I'm doing my packing and everything. Have a piece of paper and a pencil, so whatever pops in your mind, you can write it down. The last thing you want to do is be remembering 5 or 6 different things throughout the day, especially, use your phone, send yourself an email reminder or something like that. You're Ironman Village, and you're like, oh, yeah, I need to do this. You don't have anything to write it down or anything like that, pop your phone out, send yourself a little email reminder or something like that. So write it down, have paper, have pencil, use your email, whatever. Don't depend on your brain to remember everything, because that will add to your stress. The mission is to reduce the stress as much as possible leading into it. And if you have any questions, I do have the live comments pulled up here. So if you're watching this live, you have any questions, feel free to pop those in there and I'll help you out with that. So leading up, I've done videos leading up to race week, your training, all that kind of stuff. The event schedule is very important. Make sure that you know what's going on with the event schedule. But I'm going to go through specifically kind of the race, what I think are kind of be the highlight points, especially when you're going through as a first-time Ironman athlete. So we're going to assume you're all trained up, you're all ready, showed up to the finish line. So let's roll through the course and kind of my recommendations of what you should be doing. So swim course. So it is a 2-loop course, and it is very different in the fact that it's got this little section that goes over this little peninsula. It used to be for the 2021 for the 70.3, our start was over here, kind of outside this peninsula, and the finish was in the same spot. But this year, you're going to start over where the finish was for 2021, where it is for 2022, and you're going to swim these counterclockwise loops, and you're going over this little, if you look at Google Maps, it's kind of like some trees and some shrubs and something like that. It's not like a park or anything, extremely nice or someplace to sit and rest. They're going to have an aid station, so this should help ease you a little bit. And when you start out, make sure you line up. They're doing a roller swim start, so make sure you line up kind of with your ability. Don't go too fast. Don't think, I'm going to try to get out there just first and be in the water as long as possible. Try not to be out there for, seated with the fast people, because you'll get swam over all day and it will not be a pleasant experience. And if counterintuitive, if you see yourself with the slower group, maybe you showed up late or something like that and don't have a choice. But if you're with slower people, you're going to have to be swimming around a lot of people. So that's going to be the start. The catch is going to be, once you get in the second loop, it's just going to be a hodgepodge of everybody. So expect contact. I think there's going to be a lot of contact going on, but you can swim a little bit wide. The faster swimmers like to swim the buoy lines, and usually a more experienced triathlete, Ironman competitor, a little bit more experience at sighting buoys and following the buoy line a little bit better. So they will be to the inside. So that's where the fast people want to minimize how much distance they have to swim. be as fast as possible. So if you want out of the way of the fast swimmers, swim a little bit wide, especially on the turns. Everybody wants to bunch up and bottleneck around these turns, and you're going to get smacked, you're going to get hit, you're going to get kicked. It's a free-for-all, and people they're just going for it. So just be ready. Those corners, swim them wide if you don't want to get hit. I swim them wide just a little bit, just to let the fast people that really want to go after it, let them have it, let them have at it. I don't want to get punched personally. I don't want to get kicked. I just don't want to have to deal with anything like that. Don't want an orbital face fracture or something goofy like that. Swim wide, and don't go too wide, and don't add a bunch of distance to the course. But this Grays Lake is not huge, so just be ready that if you try to swim wide, I mean, there may not be that much room in certain areas, especially when you get this little peninsula. They're probably going to funnel you into one place. It's not going to be a wide swath where everybody kind of runs across. So just make sure you're prepared for that. And make sure you're prepared on that second loop. You make a beeline straight for shore. Don't get caught up and think you have to swim back to the start and then back, make that right into the swim start. Excuse me. So don't get caught up in that. Make sure you know the course. Expect contact. Line up with your swim times, kind of your ability, and just if you're uncomfortable with making contact in water, swim wide. Don't go out too hard. Don't get overworked up. There's plenty of time. Already get 2 hours and 20 minutes to do the swim. No matter when you start in the race, if you're the first in the water, last in the water. Water temperatures are looking right now. You could look at like the Des Moines River that's pretty close by. It's about 72 degrees, so right now it would be wetsuit legal. I think the temperatures are kind of going up throughout the couple days leading up to the race, so it may get above 76.1, which is the cutoff, but it will be wetsuit optional at least. So if you need a wetsuit to do the race, you're probably going to have that option. I doubt it's going to get up to 83 degrees. What's the cutoff for swimsuits or for wetsuits? So if you need that wetsuit, it's going to be available. I'm bringing my speed suit. I'm bringing my wetsuit, full sleeve wetsuit. I'm just ready for anything. I don't get overheated very easily in a full wetsuit, no matter what the water temperature is. One race out of doing races since 2004, so that's 18 years, that I got a little bit overheated in a long course swim. So bring your wetsuits, bring your speed suits. Just be ready for contact and swim the corners wide if you don't want that contact. So that's the best recommendations I can give for first timers out there in the swim, to be able to make it through and be a little bit comfortable. They're going to have kayaks, so if you run into a situation where you went out too fast, there's going to be kayaks everywhere. There's going to be divers. I don't know. I couldn't decipher in the athlete guide. Maybe I need to look through a little bit closer if they've got lily pads, so something's just kind of floating in the water where you can just kind of hang out. As long as they're not helping you make forward progress like the kayakers, you can hang in their boat, you can have a conversation, do whatever you want. But like I said, I mean, you got this little peninsula that, it's kind of a nice little carrot to know that you're going to come out of the water. If you need a little bit of a breather, just kind of walk across that little peninsula and get your breath, and then catch the second loop you can. So you're going to go over that twice. So just keep that in mind. 2-loop course, you're going over this peninsula twice. Second time over, beeline straight to the finish line. Now, do keep in mind the transition. They did have a map in the athlete guide, and I went over that, did a video on that, so go back and search my YouTube channel for that. So it's about a half-mile run. It's all paved trails. They go through and they sweep it off really good, so shouldn't have to deal with rocks or anything like that. Just be mindful. It could be a little bit slippery. It's a paved trail, but there's dirt and everything around. It's like, a nice park area. So just don't slip on it. Don't do anything goofy. Don't be in a huge hurry. The race is not going to be won or lost in the transition from the swim to the bike. So just be aware. Just be mindful when you're running out of the water, and don't do anything goofy that will get you into trouble. Let's see if I can actually pull that up for you guys. I know this is exciting. Live Facebook interaction. Let's pull up the athlete guide. See if we can download it. I know this is really exciting, entertaining, Facebook interactive. Here we go. So athlete guide, table of contents. I went through this in the video. Check in. So you can kind of see it here. Let me see if they did it in. Here we go. So this is your transition. So just be aware, swim exit to transition is up over here, transition to swim start. So when you're going to the swim start, they're going to have you come over here and walk along the trail, and you come over to the swim start. To get out, you run up this little road. Now, it was backwards for the 2021 70.3. We actually had to run down this little trail, run this little loopy-loop, and get back in the transition area. Now, when you finish the swim, you have to run up this road. It is about half a mile. It's not the end of the world, so don't sweat it too much. But just be mindful that you're going to have to kind of do some pavement running to get over there, and it's not going to be the end of the world. So let's jump into the bike course. And while we're doing that, let's go back. I want to show you. So this is nice, and I'll do a separate video on the transition kind of layout and stuff. But this is the transition area. So this is in Waterworks Park. It's a big grassy area, so if it does rain the days and the nights before, it could get a little muddy, so just be aware of that. But it's pretty huge, pretty wide open space. Like I said, it's just like a big grassy area. And over here where the backside where the bike out is going to be it's a grass. You can run this little hill. Now be aware that it could get a little muddy in this little area. So hopefully they give us a nice wide berth to get in and out, so we're not trampling one little trail in and out of this transition area. And then when you leave for the run, it's all on paved trails, concrete trails, and it's all solid ground. There's no gravel, there's no mud or dirt or anything like that. But this is a transition area. So this is one transition, but it is a little bit of a hike to swim start. It is a big hike to the finish line. They're going to have shuttles at the finish line here in Cows Commons. We'll bring you back to transition, get your stuff, so be aware of that. If you bought a VIP, there's a little parking lot here that is for the VIP athletes. If you paid extra for that, that's where you can go. So just be aware of that. Keep your head about you. Get to transition. More than likely, races have been coming back with the changing tents, so you will grab your bag. And like I said, once I get there and get on the ground and see a little bit more information, some races in 2021, you did it at the bike rack. You put your bags there, you got everything ready to go. I think they're going back to the transition tent and back to where your bags are just kind of lined out by number. You go grab it, you run into the transition tent, you get changed, take your time, get loaded up on nutrition, get you loaded up on your hydration, anything you need to put in your kit or anything you need to put on. If it's going to be a little bit chilly in the morning, stuff you brought to shed later in the race. Make sure you're situated and set up before you jump on your bike, and you don't want to be on a bike course having to fidget with your gear, your socks, your shoes, or anything like that. So make sure you take your time. You know, a 10-minute transition, 15-minute transition is better than 50 miles, 75 miles on the bike being uncomfortable because you didn't take your time situating something correctly. So just make sure, you know, lubrication, you know, if you're doing Aquaphor, you're doing, Body Glide, whatever you're doing, to make sure the sensitive parts stay sensitive and don't get chafed over time. Make sure you do that. Make sure you have everything lined out in your bag. I put all the loose stuff in little Ziploc bags, and I bring it all out. I look through it, and whatever I don't want, put back in the bag, tie it up, give it to the volunteer, and you're out of there. So more likely you have to put your shoes in there, your helmet, and everything you want to get in, to put on that you're going to wear for the bike course. So the bike course, I think, takes the most amount of patience because it's 112 miles. You can, pros do it in 4 hours and something, and age groupers 6-7 hours. It's an honest course. It's not going to be, I don't think, the super fastest course, about 4,500, 4,800 feet of climbing. So I've done it on Ruby, and it's not huge mountainous climbs, but there's some rollers, there's some steep climbs for a little bit and steep descents. So just keep your head about you. I mean, when you go through and you get out of transition, you're going to have to loop through the park here to get a couple extra miles. So just be mindful. Don't try to win the race going through this park, slam an arrow and yell at people on your left, and don't be that person. And I say that to the first timer, briefing here, but for the seasoned triathletes and stuff, just take your time, get through there. No wrecks, no rubbing people the wrong way. Just get through there, be comfortable, be safe, and get through the park. And then once you hit the roads, man, wide open. There's usually, like for the 70.3, we had lanes open to us. So, pedal to the metal, do what you're going to do. If you're a speedster and you're going out there to qualify for Kona, go for it. Now, if you're an age group athlete, first time Ironman athlete, this is where you need to find your groove. You're either doing it by your power targets, you're doing it by heart rate targets, you're doing it by perceived effort. Do what you can to get through the first 50 miles. Don't go wacko. Don't oh, I feel really good, so I'm going to hammer it a little bit more than I thought I could, because there's 112 miles, and I guarantee you by the end of the 112 miles, you will use any energy you brought to that bike race. So make sure that you pace yourself and you go through and you pay attention to aid stations. You have a plan for filling up on hydration, nutrition at the aid stations. If you're going to stop, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're going to check out special needs, make sure that you're aware of that. You keep it all in your mind. So when you're going through, it makes the miles tick off a little bit quicker when you're thinking about, okay, every 15 minutes I need to take a sip of something. Especially as it starts getting warm, the temperature forecast has gone up, I think, like 82 degrees. So it's going to start getting warm, so you definitely need to stay on top of your hydration. If you're eating something every 30 minutes or something like that, make sure you're paying attention to your watch. I go by miles. I have my lap counter every 5 miles, so that's a good indicator for me. It's like, okay, time to drink, time to eat. I switch off between my regular sports drink I bring and water. I fill up at the aid stations, either Gatorade or water. Everything they got will fit in your bottle cage as far as Gatorade and water. You need bananas, you need nutrition, wherever. I've done videos on aid stations. So just make sure that you're going with your plan. Don't go out there and think, I feel really good, and I'm just going to hammer this bike course and see what I can do. Because I guarantee you on the run, about mile 8, mile 9, or mile 10, you'll be regretting your decision to go outside of yourself on this bike ride. Now, it should be, there is going to be some climbs, but notice these nice little straightaways. It's one loop. You go back out here and you're hitting the open roads. And once you get out here on the back stretch, it is just, there's no turns, there's no nothing. It's just straight road in front of you. So that should be a great opportunity to get in your aero position, find your power ranges and your targets, and work through the hills and just work the course and get through it. You know, the race is not going to be won in the swim or the bike course, but it can definitely be lost in the bike course, because this is where people spend all the energy and they get to the end of the bike and they're just like either zapped or, you know, they just went outside themselves, and that's where they have the most problems. They start to run and it just does not go well. So make sure that you nail your plan, have a plan for the bike. Pace yourself, whatever you're doing, perceived rate of exertion, heart rate zones, power targets, whatever you're doing, make sure you do that and follow it. And then nutrition, hydration. Make sure you're staying on top of that. If you need to take breaks, my back gets a little bit sore, so probably every other aid station I try to stay, you know, maybe take an opportunity. If I have to go to the bathroom, I stretch my back and I hop back on the bike and I'm off and going. So that just kind of keeps you going, kind of a nice mental carrot from aid station or something like that to keep me going. So don't like mind drift. Don't keep your eyes on the road. Watch for traffic. There are people that just don't pay attention, don't care. Cars on the path and on the course. There's a real thing. I mean, people live on these courses, so there's going to be cars. So just make sure you pay attention to that and make sure that you're riding defensive out there, because I guarantee you there's going to be an opportunity where a car doesn't see somebody and there's going to be something happen. And let's avoid it. I want to hear any accidents on this race. So first timers out there especially, it's open to traffic usually because people live along these roads. So just be ready for the fact there could be motorists and other people out there, and the professionals are racing. So there's probably going to be Facebook Live motorcycles out there. There's going to be other coverage vehicles out there, more so than you probably would see at a typical Ironman race that does not have professional athletes. So just be aware of that. There's going to be a big deal. But for the most of us, since it's a one-loop bike course, probably not going to have to deal with that. I know I'm not going to have to deal with that. Most first-timers probably won't have to deal with that. So just keep that in mind. So when you roll in, especially pay attention, you know, this little out and back U-turn here, and you come back, we're going to have to go through the park again, and you're going to have to go through the winding course. So just take your time. You know, once you get back to that park, you've done what you can do. Now's not the time they're trying to make up. It's like, oh, I missed my 16 mile per average goal, so I'm going to try to hammer it through this park. Don't do that, because there's turns, there's blind corners. Just take it easy. Especially it's time to start powering down and getting ready for that bike ride. Make sure you top off some fluid, nutrition, everything else. Don't get overly hydrated, overly nourished, but make sure that you're all set up, get everything situated, and you're thinking through in transition what you want to do. So you're going to leave your shoes on the bike and you're going to run it in. You're going to just unclip from that and run in your shoes to transition and rack your bike, and then all the things you want to get out of your transition bag. So that's kind of what you need to be thinking about as you come in the last couple miles of the bike course. And once you get in there, you come into transition, Waterworks Park, same area, bring your bike in. Probably going to be a changing tent. So you grab your bag, go in the changing tent, like I said, with the bike, take everything out, line it up, look at what you need, take your time, get situated, get everything you need. The last thing you want to do is get on the course being like, oh crap, I forgot this, that, and the other back in my transition bag. That is the last thing you want to do. Worst case, take it with you, stuff it on you, and if you're taking it through and you're like, I don't need this, drop it at an aid station, trash can, or something like that. Better to have it, not need it, than need it and not have it, is my opinion. So just make sure you've thought out that transition and what you want to take with you to the run course. So the run course, I kind of like this. You can see up here, it's going to be 3 loops. It is a spectator-friendly course, in my opinion, because your spectators can come see you in transition, so they can see you come out and they can cheer you on, and that's when you're going to be most energetic. Do not come out hot and heavy on the run, because I guarantee you, done it myself, you come out hot and heavy and you're like, oh, I feel good, I'm hitting my target paces and everything, but you're going to pay for it later. So come out maybe slower in your targets or something like that. Even take your time. Be like, your spectators there, give them a hug, being like, yeah, the bike was great, or yeah, my rear end's sore after 112 miles and I'm ready to kind of run around for a little bit. Because once you come out of here, you're going to be running this course. So they can see you come out of transition, so you hang it right when you're doing the run course. You can go around the pedestrian bridge. So your spectators, if they time it well, they can go back to up the road here, up the Fluor Drive, and they can actually see you come back on the loop. So they could be walking to the finish line along the run course. They could see you come again, like, hey, good luck, and then you come in and you hit this U-turn, and then they can see you again when you come by, be like, oh yeah, I got 3 more of these. And then they can go camp out here around the finish line, around the U-turn, or anywhere on this course, because they're going to see you for the second U-turn, see you coming out, or coming in and then going out. And then you can take your time, get over to the finish line, line up on the chute, wherever. Definitely recommend before the race, go over to the finish line area and say, hey, I need you to be right here, because it's going to be, there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of spectators, a lot of hoopla, a lot of lights, a lot of cameras. Mike Riley's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of action. So make sure you've worked out with your spectators. Hey, I'm going to look for you right here. So if I don't see you here, don't get offended, because I miss my family every time when I'm coming down the run chute. People are yelling your name, because sometimes your name's on your bib, and people are just like, yeah, great job, yeah. You don't hear what's going on. You don't see outside of the 3 to 4 foot bubble that you're running through, especially when you get to the red carpet and you just want to be done. It's kind of hard. So make sure you make that plan with your spectators. I've done a video on spectators and kind of my recommendation of where they should be at. But for you first timers out there, like I said, transition, make sure you get everything you want, or everything you think you want, because you can always dump it in the trash in the aid station later on the run. So that's my recommendation. Now at 82 degrees, it's probably going to get a little warm. So be thinking about, grabbing some ice. I know my triathlon kit has a little pocket on the back, so I can stick ice cubes in there. Be aware that that's going to run down and get in your socks and your shoes. So you're going to face some chafing issues. So I definitely recommend bringing some Aquaphor for T2 and putting on new socks and shoes and slathering your feet with Aquaphor, because that's going to be real, especially if it gets warm and you're dousing yourself with water. Your shoes, your socks will become inundated with water, and hopefully your shoes allow water to get out so they're not caked in there. So you're going through and you're doing the run course. I definitely recommend, have your hydration plan, have your nutrition plan, try to stick to it as best as possible, because at this point your plan is probably going to not match what your expectations were when you get to the run course. That's why I recommend coming out a little bit slower than you normally would. Come out if you're like, oh, I think I could do 10 minutes a mile, and that's kind of my zone 2, and I could do that all day. Well, come out 11 minutes a mile. First 1 or 2 miles. 2 extra minutes isn't going to be the end of the world if you're like, I'm feeling great, I'm going to do it, and keep going. But if you get to mile 3, 4, and you're like, man, I don't think I could go faster if I wanted to, you save yourself a little bit of energy. You haven't burned too much, because once you start burning it in an burning your energy in an exponential rate, you can't get it back. You're not going to get it back anyway, but if you pace yourself a little bit better, you can make that extend out to the finish line. Been there before. When you hit mile 10, 13, 14, that's when the race really starts, because that's when you either get to the point where you just kind of hit the wall. I know my stomach starts throwing a tantrum, and I can't eat anything, can't drink anything, and it just becomes a struggle bus of getting to the finish line without either throwing up, without having to walk, without feeling dehydrated and dizzy and nauseous and all that kind of fun stuff. So mile 13, mile 14, that's where it's really going to kick in. But like I said, I think this is a spectator very friendly course because along this whole path, it's not what I would call remote. Now these little out and backs, there's little roads and little sections and little parks and stuff where people can kind of hang out and see the racers and stuff. We did it for the 70.3, and that's where I kind of burnt my matches on the first loop, and then I came back in the second loop. It got really hot going around Grays Lake, and the last 3 miles I was toast, and my watch got to like 92 degrees or something crazy. It was storming in the morning, 3-hour delay, cut the bike course in half, and we got there on the run and later than we normally would in the day, and it was just, you could see the steam coming up off the lake. It was crazy. Hopefully that is not the case this year. But playing, if it gets to 82 degrees and you're in the middle of the day and you're out there running, it's going to get a little bit steamy on this lake. So just be prepared for that. It's going to be probably a little bit warm on that run. So just make sure you're hydrating properly, especially on the bike, because that'll set you up for the run. And make sure you're doing a pace that is sustainable for the run. And don't get caught up, don't think, I just need to build cushion so I can walk the rest of the run if I need to or something like that. Pace yourself. 11, 12-minute miles is better than trying to do 8-minute miles for the first 4 and then be reduced to walking. So you're 15, 16-minute miles and you're just having to do that shuffle struggle to the finish line, because that's not fun. Trust me, especially when you get to this back section here and you get through downtown, people are lining the streets. There's aid stations. It's like a party going on, especially for the 70.3. It was crowded. It was crazy, especially at the U-turn here at the finish line. They're all cheering you on, and you're going to see people turning and going to the finish line. So that's if you're on your second or your third loop, that's a little bit defeating, but it's going to happen. Just be prepared for that. You got to be mentally strong at that point. This is where you dive in and you bring up every bit of sucky training sessions you had where you went out and you didn't get your entire bike ride in because you just got hot and overheated, or you didn't get your nutrition right, or you did your brick run and you ended up having to walk it instead of running it. Think of all that mental fortitude that you built up to be able to get through and finish that workout or whatever. Even if you did finish it, to get back home and then to keep training to do the race later. So this is where that mental fortitude is really going to play in. At no point in time do you want to sit down or stop. Even if you have to, if you're walking, that's great. There are people who hold up signs and like, you should be, or I forget the stupid sayings people have. It's like, you shouldn't, real Ironman don't walk or something stupid like that. Who cares? As long as you're moving forward, don't pay attention to whatever signs people or people giving you a hard time for walking or something like that. Like, oh man, you're almost there. Just jog it out. It's like, no. If I had done that 70.3, I would have passed out probably at some point. Instead, I walked. I got to the finish line, got my medal, and then went and threw up a little bit and got home fine. So do your own race. Don't let spectators get in your head. Don't let other athletes get in your head. Aid station people are great, but don't sit down. Unless you're going to pass out, then yeah, sit down. But the mistake I made in 2014 Ironman Texas, I stopped to get a rock out of my shoe and cramped up, and I couldn't stop. For 45 minutes, I was sitting there with the medical people. I couldn't straighten out. I couldn't get up. So I had to go to a medical tent, get an IV. Well, it was fine. But had I not stopped, had I just keep kind of walking and maybe got to an aid station and say, hey, can you take my shoe off and get the rock out and help me get it back on? I might have been okay and just walked it off. And I learned that lesson later. And races where I get to that point, take a break. I walk between aid stations, get ice, get water, do what you can to get back to neutral. So just keep moving forward. Whatever you do, don't. Even on the bike, if you get a flat, don't just sit there on the side of the road. Start walking your bike to the next aid station because there's techs there. It may take an hour for them to get there, but that hour is better than just sitting there and maybe you make 4 extra miles, whereas if you just sat there and just twiddled your thumbs, you would have 4 extra mile at the bike or something like that. So just keep moving as long as it's not a medical situation where you can't. Just keep moving. I don't care if you have to walk. I don't care if you're shuffling. I don't care. As long as you're moving, that's all that counts. Because definitely having a finish time of 16 hours and 59 minutes is better than DNF. Trust me, it sucks. It's all the medals that I have. I remember more of completing the race, and I look at it and I'm like, I think this is my time. I don't remember. I have a spreadsheet for that kind of stuff. Who cares about the time? Finish it. Get it done. Get it under your belt and call it good. So that's my recommendations. I didn't see any questions or anything like that in the live feed here. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, Facebook, if you have a question, put it in the comments. I get notifications. I'll answer them if I can, or I'll point you in the right direction. If you're seeing it on Facebook, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you're seeing it on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Hit subscribe, hit the notification button so you can see future videos either on Des Moines or other race courses I'm going to do, or just triathlon tips in general. I'm publishing stuff weekly, and I'm doing other races out there this year, so I'm going to be publishing that, and I'm coaching athletes on different races, so I do breakdowns of those races for them and then put it out there for everybody else to help them out. So hopefully this helped you out. I know we talked for a good 30 minutes, so lots of information here in these 30 minutes. Usually when I do these live at the Ironman Village or something like that for the athlete briefing, I get to talk for like 3 minutes, and then it's over, and then we answer questions afterwards. So hopefully this helped you out. Pause it, rewatch it, listen to it on your travel over when you're driving there or something like that. Hopefully this helps you out. And like I said, if you got any questions, put them in the comments, even if it's after the video. And I get notifications, I'll answer any questions that I can. So hopefully with that, we'll see you at Ironman Village. We'll see you at the finish line. Have a great race, and we will see you there.